Kalaspira, kia ora, good evening. I want to have a little cosy fireside chat about the problem that we've got. The problem is this thing called democracy. Because the thing is, we spend a lot of time and effort talking about democracy. We spend a lot of our time talking about politics and how to fix problems in our communities. But we spend an awful lot of time talking about why it doesn't work. Why our governments don't reflect the communities that they're supposed to represent. Why do we distrust politicians? 20% of people in Britain believe that they can influence the decision the government makes. That means 80% believe that they have no influence. How is that working? We seem to have created a system of democracy that's become effectively unaccountable, and we can ignore elections. Voting in an election isn't really that much of a democratic act. As you might have noticed here in Greece, when you vote for a party that promises to do one thing, it actually doesn't. It pretty much carries on as before. Now, it's very easy to blame the politicians for that, but actually the one thing I've learnt about politics and democracy and government is that if you can see their faces, they don't have the real power. If they can stand in front of you and get your vote, they aren't the ones in power. The ones in power are the people we can't see. They're the people that pull the economic levers. They're the people that control the media empires. They're the people that select the politicians for the old traditional parties. And that's got to change. Democracy has become this arrogant monster that is actually stopping us doing what we want to do. The bureaucrats, the technocrats, they go through the form and say, no, you can't do this, even though the community wants it, even though it's what people have said they would like in their community, according to this rule that comes from London, Athens, Brussels, wherever, or according to the international financiers, because we've got austerity, whatever that is, you can't do it. You've got to do it this way. Funnily enough, this way seems to involve privatizing the service and handing it over to a company that remains remarkably unaccountable to the democratic electors of any country. So we've really got to do something about this. We've got to take democracy and take this arrogance and turn it into intimacy. And those are two quite scary words for politicians. Accusing a politician or a bureaucrat of being arrogant is not something they like. It's not something they want to hear. But it's something they need to hear because a lot of them are. But actually, there are some good ones out there as well. So let's recognize that. And this is not about knocking the system. This is about all the people in the system. This is about saying we need to change, but we need to take people with us as well. So let's find the people who can believe in intimacy. And intimacy is a scary word for politicians. Asking a politician to become intimate with the electorate it's not something they really want to face up to a lot of the time, because that means having real, honest conversations. It means sharing. And as we're going to hear, it means doing stuff together, not making the decisions yourself. So I want to talk today about what we can do to change this. And I'm going to start by talking about 3 myths that as we start on the journey to improving democracy, these are the 3 things that we will think are going to be there and we think are going to fix the problem and won't. And then I'm going to talk about 3 things that we do need to do that will help us fix the problem. So let's start with a myth. People are going to get that change is needed. You are passionate about the need to do things differently, about the need to improve the system, about the need for change and transformation. And you expect everyone is going to understand this. But democracy is actually an intimate thing. My democracy is not your democracy. What I believe democracy to be is not the same as the person next to me, and nor should it be. Democracy is not a huge, great slab of granite. It's what we call a contestable discourse. It can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. So don't expect everyone to understand your message straight away. You've got to let go of that and let people own the message themselves. Put it into their own words. Reshape it. Reshape it in ways that make sense to them, and then they can pass it on. So as we do this, we start to build a common dialogue, a common understanding, but we let people use their own language. And then that comes back to us. So expecting people to simply get what you're saying is not going to work. You're going to really limit the audience. This is an interesting one. A lot of us think if we create enough power in our communities, at our grassroots, if we create enough momentum for change, we will beat the system. You won't. You won't beat the system. You're seeing that here in Greece. You are not beating the system. It is beating you, despite what you've done. You are losing that battle. Now, just assume for a minute you win. Let's look at Egypt. When we had people protesting in Tahrir Square, there was a huge momentum. It grew very, very quickly. We all watched it on TV. The energy was fantastic. The things that happened were incredible. They created change. Did they win? No, because what they did was put all of their energy into overturning the system. And when they won, it just creates a vacuum. And when you create a vacuum, someone more powerful, more organized, more in control than you are, steps in and fills it. You just did the job for them. So, what do we do? Well, first of all, let's not beat the system. Let's change the system. There are people on the inside who believe in change. This isn't an us and them. There are good people everywhere who want to do things differently. So let's work with them. Just as we have the rebels on the outside who are protesting, we have the innovators on the inside who want to change that from the inside as well. And we can't just protest. We can't just shout about the problem. If we're going to succeed in really fixing this, we have to have people who understand that change is necessary. So we need change agents who can come in and take the process and hold the conversations with the people that know how the system works at the moment, and we can change it. Evolution is always going to be much more successful than revolution in this context. And I'm a technologist. My background is actually in software. So I can say this even though I wish it weren't true. Technology will not fix the problem. We use technology now in a way that even 5 years ago we couldn't have imagined. The things that we do, we are glued to our mobile phones, to our mobile devices, and when we get home to some other device, it could be a TV, it could be a toaster in this day and age. Everything is internet connected. And technology has an important transformational role when it comes to reframing and transforming democracy. It's an immensely powerful tool. But if you take a process of democracy, a process of government, and you digitize it, what you have is a broken process that has just become a broken digital process. You haven't fixed it. You've just put a nice shiny new coat of paint on this rusting old hulk of democracy. And that will break fairly quickly. The rust will shine through before the day is out. So let's not see technology as some panacea, as some great God to be held up in front of us as the solution to all our problems. But let's see it as a tool that we can harness, really importantly, really critically, but actually change is about people. Change is a socially driven process. We change, tools don't. We can use them for good and bad. So let's bring the social process forward. Let's bring the conversation forward. And let's look at how the technology then enables that. And it can. There are some fantastic tools around that can do this. And there's a product called Lumio, which is around some fantastic group decision-making. There's another called Represent, which is about very quickly gauging opinion on a subject. You can ask a very quick question. There are hundreds of these tools out there, but unless we apply them to the right social process, they are devalued. And why does all of this matter? Why are we even trying? Why don't we just give up? Well, every time we try and change democracy, it seems that it just backfires on us. We just end up back where we started. Well, actually, I believe we can create the change now, because where we are at this point in our civilization is very different to where we were 100 years ago or 50 years ago, and even in some ways 10 years ago. The society that we live in now is more than ever a network. And it's a network in terms of the relationships that we have and the way that we operate. It's a social network. It is a giant Facebook in some ways, but let's not be technical and digital about it. Let's actually recognize that what this is about is reciprocity and relationships. So how do we create a networked democracy. Democracy that isn't about the gravity of power, where power is held above and drops down using gravitational forces, but is about momentum, where the right people at the right time have the right opportunity and the tools and the skills and the support to ignite real change that creates real and lasting difference. Because when you do lots of small things in lots of places and you pull them all together, you bring it all together, you do an awful lot more. So, what are the solutions? What do we need to do to make things different? If we're going to create this circuit breaker now that says we've had enough of stale old democracy, the stuff that doesn't work, no matter who we vote for, the same people get in, and it just goes right back. It's like a giant reset. What do we need to do to make sure that doesn't happen? This is not a quick process. This is going to be a long-term project. We need to do things over a significant period of time. You know, there's no magic bullet for this. This is hard work. But we can do some interesting things. Let's shift power. Let's shift power so it's used with us. Not against us or done to us, but with us. Power is with us, the community, whatever those communities are. And there's no homogeneous community, and we all belong to multiple communities. So it's complex. But let's find leaders who emerge, the right people to step forward at the right time to do the job. And they don't come from above. They come from wherever they are in the system, on the inside or the outside. But they're the people that have the respect, the knowledge, and the skill to come get the job done. And most importantly, these grounded leaders don't see leadership as a career ladder, as a thing to do for the next 40 years of their life, but it's a timely temporal intervention where they step forward, they lead the thing they need to do, and they step back. We need to have authentic conversation. Conversation is at the heart of democracy. It's about debate, it's about dialogue. It's not about conflict and arguing and fighting for little things that we should just get. It actually should be about conversation. And this is about co-producing. We've got to do stuff together. You know, there is not one person in this room who is smarter than the whole room put together. If we harness the energy of our communities, if we harness the energy of the people around us, and we actually work for change together, we can do an awful lot more. And this is all about power with. It's about sharing power. It's about real conversations. Let's have the conversations that matter. You know, the way the media works these days, every issue is fudged and we're never quite sure what the story is. The spin everywhere. Let's take that out. And when we do that, we start building in some resilience into the system because our networks are strong. If you think of a net, it holds the weight. If you think of a single thread, it's not as strong. So if we take that net and we use that net as a tool for society to build resilience, when things go wrong, when we take a step backwards, and we will, because these things are not linear success routes, there are lots of challenges and problems in between. We've built the resilience to cope. And when we build resilience, we build trust. And when we share, we build trust. So when we do things together, when we co-produce, when we have real conversations, I think this is a plane load of Brussels bureaucrats flying in for a week in the sun while lots of people on the beach around them drown. And they've all got dark glasses on so they can't see it happening. So trust. We build trust. We build relationships which are based on trust, mutuality, co-creation, doing stuff together. And what we can do is actually embrace the uncertainty. If we knew the answer, we'd do it. You know, we spend a lot of our time deciding what to do by looking at statistics and reports and analysis and news reports and everything else. We spend a lot of our time working out what to do next by looking at the past. Let's start dreaming about the future. Let's set the vision for what democracy needs to look like, and let's work towards it. We don't need to actually create these dumbed-down models of control and power that we have now. We have the opportunity to do things differently. We have the opportunity to start them in small places. We have the opportunity to start these conversations where we live, in small ways, in schools, in libraries, in rest homes, in supermarkets, in the villages and the towns and the cities where we live, and then in the countries, and then across Europe. We could build an immensely powerful system where we harness the energy of people. We don't all have to agree. This is the other problem. We seem to think we have to have this consensus all the time. We don't need consensus. We just need to have conversations. We can agree to disagree on stuff, but we can still work out the best way to do it. And it's funny, when you have real conversations with people, quite often they'll say, okay, I don't agree with that, but I'll go along with it. So that's about sharing power. That's about co-creating the future. And I think the most important thing about this is it's an active learning experience for all of us. Everything that we do in this process goes towards doing it better the next time. There is no perfect. There is just a journey. So this is a journey from arrogance, from control, and when democracy is a problem, democracy is a giant wall in our way, to intimacy, where power is shared, the conversations are curated amongst us, we co-create the solutions, we have real relationships and resilience and trust in our communities. And the most important thing is every step we take in this progress, every step we take in this journey towards intimate democracy is a place that we learn. And I'm going to leave you with that thought. Thank you.